Say good morning.
Well, I am late.
I'll turn around.
There. So, ready? Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, January 25th, and it's 7:03. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the roll reflect that everyone is present except for Jeff Redmond, who's gone tonight. Has this meeting been properly notified?
Yep, meeting is properly noticed and as a reminder, it's being recorded.
Any public comment? None. Highlight on youth, we don't have anything scheduled. 7 comments by board members and superintendent. So first order of business is congratulations to Lance Ronstadt. He's our newly appointed board member, and we'll have you take the oath of office. You can just stand and read off this.
I, Lance Ronstadt, have been appointed to the office of St. Croix School Board of the State of Wisconsin. Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And then maybe to Stacy, she can sign it as the notary and she'll stamp it.
Okay. I sign it first.
I think so, right?
Thank you.
It's official.
There we go.
All right, so we'll move on to the report on the WASB State Convention. Jeff wrote up his thoughts since he couldn't be here, so you can read those at your convenience. And the rest of us, I guess we can share what the highlights were, what we thought.
I thought it was really good. There was a handful of notes I went over yesterday, which I kind of wrote down from even the speakers and then from some of the breakout sessions. There's some really good topics that were talked about. There was nothing like super groundbreaking, but just kind of reinforcing the things that we're doing. I thought it was really good. I thought the one speaker, David, I don't know how to say his name. Yeah, I thought he was really good. It's good.
I like the exhibit hall because they had a lot of different product there, so we were able to talk to vendors as far as the referendum is concerned, and just kind of learn about things.
Yeah, we got to talk to some turf people, and that was interesting to hear, kind of, from all different, from different vendors, just kind of how they do it, and what their new things in the technology of turf and stuff. I thought that was really interesting.
I kind of focused the conferences that I attended around kind of the student entrepreneur and how to engage students early on and trying to be creative and how to generate revenue and whatnot, and found some interesting either strategies to get the school involved and or state functions that help support some of those things that I'm interested to continue talking about.
And then Jeff and I were in the voting
Delegate
Yeah.
assembly.
which is a treat. No, it was good though. There was a lot of people, and just to see how they do that, where if they want to have, they have this proposed idea, and then someone wants to have amendment to it, and you have to argue it. You have to have someone second it. It's a room of 300 and some people, voting on it. Some were just boom and go, and then some were pretty close. And, it was interesting. It was long, but it was interesting.
You're gonna do it again.
Lance is doing it.
Put it in.
It ended that, it went so long that so many people left that they did they did a vote and there wasn't enough there to continue to vote. There wasn't enough. So we
Lost
called
the
it.
forum.
Yep, lost the quorum and everyone got up and left. After all that.
It was scheduled like 1:30 to 3:30 and it was.
Oh, yeah.
6.
It was, we were on, I think out of 14 pages, we were on the first page, item 2, and it had already been an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was 3 o'clock. I think you texted you were on item 2.
But it was good. It was good discussion for the most part.
Good to see our, the people from Wold and all those people and connect with them in person. So that was nice as well. Then, then Barry and then Baird, and then
Brian Brewer.
Brian Brewer was there. So good to see them. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to our scheduled presentation. And that is Brock.
I'll mention.
Oh.
The second Friday
Oh,
count in
sorry.
January was January 13th, and gals are still meeting today and sorting through that. And once the final report will be submitted to Deep Guys ready, we'll present that at the next board meeting, but it's not complete yet.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the scheduled presentations. That's Brad Guyan and Sarah Cobbs of Clifton Larson Allen LLP to present school audit report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
Mary. Yeah, my pleasure. I got a handout here. One person that hasn't heard this, the information I share here, so let's explain that real quick. I'm Brock Guyan, principal in charge of your annual external audit. Sarah back there does a lot of the work for us, for you guys along the way, and hard questions from you guys, she'll jump in and answer those for us. But I got a 2-page handout. I don't know if you do have a financial statement there, the booklet. I won't go through that in detail. Most people don't want me to do that. But I'll cover the 2-page summary. And if you had any other questions, want me to look at anything more details. All right. So, so you do have the handout there. So the way this thing starts, I'm going to cover the reports we issue first, and then I'll talk about some of the numbers. And kind of condensing this down a little bit, a lot of really good information to share tonight related to your audit of last year, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. So the audit report itself, the booklet, we issue an audit opinion down there. Now the structure and the wording of that changed quite a bit. There's a new set of audit standards that came down, changed a lot of our forms or whatever behind the scenes. But the one thing you'll notice is that the auditor's opinion in the booklet itself is going to look a lot different than last year. And ultimately it gets down to the conclusion of very similar though. You've got an unmodified opinion. It's all the amounts and disclosures are materially correct in there. At the end of the booklet, there's a report called Schedule of Findings. So we also report on your internal controls and your compliance with things like state and federal plans. So back there, we do have one thing we're reporting. Actually, several years ago, you'd have several things back there. So I consider this very, very good. All of our clients receive the same one. It's called Limited Segregation of Duties. And all that means is you don't have a team of CPAs back in the accounting office doing work, right? You got a few people doing multiple responsibilities, are good at doing it. So when that happens, we didn't find any fraud or error because of the situation. It's just what it is. And we have what's called lack of segregation. So we report that, and you're going to realign your controls. So this is maybe more of a reminder for the board each year when I come to talk to you. The approvals you guys do on a monthly basis are important, and that's things we look at as well during the audit process to make sure that there's oversight. That mitigates the risk. We didn't find any problems with compliance. Second part of it. And then there's another section here, some other things tied into the audit that maybe you do, excuse me, or do not know that we help out with there. So let's talk about the numbers a little bit, and we'll talk about the general fund first. This is now funds 10 and 27 combined. Reporting standards say we have to put those together when we put your audit report together. So do know that these numbers reflect the combination of those two. I'll have you look at the second to last row on this first page, and that gives you a change in fund balance, 210,000. That's the results for the year. That's coming out positive, that's net income. If it was negative, you have a loss for the year. So you had a good result here. Actually, the trend for the last 4 years is really good. And to measure your financial health, we're going to look at the 3 shaded rows. Hopefully it's shaded on your printed copies. The first one, unassigned fund balance. It's your year-end reserves of just over $4 million. And we're going to compare that to what you spent, a little over $23 million. You get that ratio at the bottom of 17.2. Very, very consistent the last 4 years. I actually look back over the last 10 years, and it's been very, very solid. Right line here within excuse me, plus or minus a percentage. Pretty unusual. Means you're maintaining your finances very well within a level we consider pretty thin. Yeah, at 17%, we're more of suggesting anywhere north of 23, 24%, usually when we're asked. But as long as you don't have issues with cash flow problems and pay the bills, 17%, the way you guys have been operating is just fine. So we don't consider that necessarily a problem for you. You do have a policy, it's very narrow, between 17 and 19% is where you'd like to see that at the end of every given year. So you can see you're right in the ballpark there the last 4 years. And if you're interested, the average for the 40 summit districts we work with in Northwest Wisconsin is about 29% this year. So not too far off, a little bit higher, but I don't see problems with where you're at. Page 2. Here's a summary. Your end reserves of the rest of your funds in item 3.5. We'll talk about all these. In a food service fund, you just get a pretty nice jump there over last year. There's a couple of reasons for that. We're seeing this throughout Wisconsin schools. There's more federal aid coming in, about $300,000, excuse me, of more federal aid and free and reduced meals kind of thing. And you also had a little uptick in your paid meals as well. So theory there that we're hearing is maybe because free and reduces free meals are provided to everybody. Some families have extra money they're giving their kids to pay for the home card type stuff. So you need some more money too. But again, higher reserves at the end of 22. You've got a debt service fund that pays your principal and interest each year. Small decrease there. Important thing to note for this particular fund, there's $438,000 that you have sitting in the bank in reserves to be used in a future budget period. In theory, when all your debt is paid, this number should go down to zero, right? So this is available to the district in the future period. You got 2 capital projects fund. One, Fund 49, that's brand new this year. Probably remember the issuance of $20 million in debt for all the various projects that are going on. This is where that landed and will be spent down. So there was about $400,000 of expense during 2022. At $53 there, talk about this each year. You haven't done too much with this. I think it was 2015 maybe when this was originated. DPI's rule there is you have to fund it for 5 years before you can actually utilize it. And it's made for a capital improvement plan. So you put that seed money in there way back in the day. You really haven't done anything with it since, but it has vested technically. So whenever you get, whenever it's advantageous for you to do so, you can transfer money over there from the general fund, finance a long-term capital plan, and then start paying things out of that. Through plan. So that's available to you. Not everybody uses it, but at least you can have that started and free to use it at any point now. And then the last thing here, just a summary of your long-term debt obligations. See that new row there of $20 million. That's the new notes. You paid down your general obligation bonds a bit from last year. And the only other thing that looks unusual, but it's correct. No, that section there, you got a WRS pension liability / asset. It's a negative number. It's an asset. You can't go to the bank and collect the $5 million. What that represents is it's a state-run program. You're a participant as a district, right? Every government that participates in the state administered plan technically owns a part of it. So they have actuaries that they hire, and they come up with calculations and say every participant has this portion of either the excess or the deficit of the overall plan. The plan is overfunded, which is a good place to be. Not every state's that way. And so you do have 5.3 million or just short of 5.4 million of the surplus that is sitting in the plan right at the end of 22. Actually 6 months prior. It's a 12/31 year end measurement of the roll it forward. But the good news there is the numbers on the plan. Tough decisions don't have to be made by the state to make it whole. So good place to be. The other two items, other post-employment benefit and supplemental pension, those are administered here by the district. So those are your plans that you offer your employees and the status of those plans. All right, last thing I'll point out is the last ratio at the bottom. That's a measurement of your statutory limit of how much tax-supported debt you can hold. You're at 46.6% of that limit. And it was an uptick last year because you did issue $100 million in tax support. That's why. So overall, again, pretty good results for the year. A lot of good things to talk about here, but if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Just for the sake of asking a question, maybe a dumb question, what all is categorized in the unassigned fund? And maybe why are we so good at it compared to other districts, keeping that percentage down? And that might be a Tim question, but.
Well, I'll answer what it is first, and you can talk about maybe how you guys like monitor it through the budgeting process and stuff like that. So this unassigned fund balance. So if you paid all your bills and you collected all your receivables, what would be left? And that's what this number represents, right? So that is your true reserve. If you had to live on it in an emergency, this is what you'd have left. Sounds like a lot, $4 million, but $23 million of expenses every year. That only gets you so far. So in theory, the 17% mean you could pay for 17% of your next year's expenses approximately with your reserves if you had to. So when I talk about maybe a minimum of 23 to 25%, about 3 months worth of reserves, it's higher than what you have. So, and the 29% that my average in my districts have, the 40 some, is higher. So their reserves are a bit higher than yours. You're living at a leaner position at 17, and you're successfully doing that. Some downfalls potentially, which you haven't run into too much, is in the past, there's been years where you've had a short-term borrower to pay the bills at some point. A very short period of time every year, you incur a little bit of interest costs when you do that. Not the end of the world, but you can avoid having strong reserves allows you to avoid that scenario. The other side of it is potentially bond rating and how much interest you pay on your debt. You don't have an issue really with your bond rating either. Bond folks, they look highly on your district as well. Senior operations see how you operate and look at your numbers, and so. Well, that could be a potential problem, especially when it goes downward, for instance, when your reserves go downward. You're not in that situation. You're just operating at a don't get anything to add to that.
I misunderstood the percentage on that too, but that explanation maybe answers the other part.
Yeah, every year it tells us here's the average of the folks we work with, a little lower, but and it works for us. We believe in spending the money and not have to cut things and spending the money on people and things. And the board a number of years ago passed a resolution, so GASB 54, say we're going to keep between 17 and 19%. So we're very intentional to keep it there. And that does, the main reason has helped us with both referendums when we borrow for our bonds. S&P does all these things, and that's one of them. Like, oh, you're financially healthy. You said you're going to be between this and this, and you've stayed there, and you've got plans to stay there, and they get an A+ rating because of it, and then they get nice low interest rates. So that's one strength of it. Yeah, I'm not really sure why some districts have such high savings account, fund balances, because it's, you want to spend the money, where our budgets are thin already at the state, and maybe those are the districts, I haven't looked into it, that, don't have such a low revenue limit, that as we do, perhaps, but that's our thinking and it works for us. And, he'd mentioned about the short-term borrowing. And again, it depends when the checks come in from state and from local municipalities and the timing.
Yeah.
That's just a timing thing.
Yep.
And it's typically, 2 or 3 weeks.
It's a good question. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Yes. Well, if you think of something, follow up. We can always track this down and and run those questions to us, and we'll be happy to try to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's have our financial reports.
Sure. Bank account balances as of 12/31/2022. Assistant State Bank checking $810,677.57. Assistant State Bank money market $525,928.93. Excuse me. Assistant State Bank Fund 46, $53.56. Assistant State Bank Money Market Suicide Prevention, $17,083.14. Debt Management Fund 39, $156,249.42. Debt Management Fund 49, $18,411,826.22 for a total fund balance of $19,921 or 921. So let me start over. $19,921,818.84. It's different than my bank.
We have a motion to
Second.
discussion. So Dave first, Brian second, all in favor, opposed? Financial report approved. Consideration of consent agenda. You can read through that. We have 11 full-time students and 38 part-time students to enroll in.
Make a motion to approve. Agenda as presented. Second.
Brian first, Vince second. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Moving on to administrative reports, student enrollment update. Hi, Tim.
On the top column there is our students in seats, dropped from 1,635 to 1,630 semester time here. You can see the rest of the numbers. We've got our virtual charter kids, 239 students in that, as compared to last January at 213. So that's positive. We have 39 full-time resident virtual students. And then one number I think is interesting, I haven't pointed out before, but if you look at our open enrollment column in the bottom left, we have 491 students choosing to enroll in our district from other outside of our district boundaries. And if you count up the 1,630 in seats plus the 239 virtual charter plus the 39, we're educating 1,908 students here at St. Croix Central, of which 491 are open enrolled. So that's 26% of our student body is not living within our district. I thought that was pretty interesting and a positive trend.
Is like the 5 down, like the very first number, is that graduating? The kids that graduated early already or something?
No, it's just migration.
Move on, key work of our school board, Josh?
Yeah. We have a recognition of Lydia Hubbard. Lydia has become a mainstay at our home events with her singing of the national anthem. Her poise and talent are on full display when she performs. I've had so many spectators, visitors, and our home fans comment on how fortunate we are to have her perform and on the amazing job that she does. Lydia Hubbard.
That was a really good job.
Yeah, she does.
We'd like the live performances.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, moving on to our core agenda items. We have quite a few to get through. The first one is the discussion regarding referendum design and construction approval process. Vince?
It kind of came from last meeting. I was a little bit surprised that the board wouldn't have much decision if the design of something
within the referendum switch from kind of what was advertised. We advertised that parts of the project are gonna be 8% of the whole thing, and now we're pushing closer to 10 with the proposals on certain things. I meant we're oversight, so I thought we'd kind of oversee some stuff as far as the big picture. Maybe nobody else feels that way.
You're saying like the spending or the design portion?
Well, I meant they kind of go together. I meant, you know, if you design it a little more than what, I mean, or something's gonna be less, and we said we were gonna do it, or something's a little more than we said we were gonna do, I guess, you know.
Is there a specific part you're thinking about, or?
Well, I mean, it was a little eye-opening when we were $1 million over on the athletic fields and whatnot, and then which like some of the upgrades seem like that's not so much for kids, and then we took out a road, which seems like a safety issue, like we advertised we're gonna, I don't know. I just want to come through with what we promised the community when we went to referendum. As close to as possible. I mean, I don't want to micromanage it. I just like the big picture stuff. When we see it, it seems like there should be some sort of a approval process by the board. It's oversight.
I don't think it's ever been done in the past that a board has overseen projects like that. Is my understanding.
So we don't approve spending on anything
Well,
like
we
that?
can't spend over, right, or what we went to
I'm just-
referendum for the questions, right? So
Well,
our
the-
questions were
well-
vague enough.
I'm just asking though, like, because we approved like Staples, right, like 5 minutes ago. That's fine. I mean, are you saying like we've never done that before? Like, I'm just asking. I don't know. I wasn't here
I
before.
think in terms of, but I think that's kind of two parts of it. We oversee that and we've approved that, but I mean, is there other parts than just the athletics stadium part?
Well, I mean, I don't think we're just trying to hit the number, right? It seems like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul in parts of it possibly, so.
Like what parts can you be specific?
Like I said, we talked about having a secondary entrance to the high school as a safety concern. And that got scratched. Now we purposely when we went to referendum, we talked about the athletic being like surfaces. Now it's advertised as a stadium. When you go to Facebook or whatever, they're talking about the new stadium and these new bleachers with the press box. We talked
But
about.
that's not our words. I mean, you're right, but if you look at the facts, so it's still the track and it's the turf. So it's not that it's a stadium. One of the
Who's staying in the
states.
stadium?
Oh.
Us?
What? Well, I mean, I'd have to see if I actually emailed it to myself. I was reading it through on the old Facebook the other night, and
When are you getting at like, because the last time we did the review, I wasn't at the last meeting, but the last time we did the review was like another million-ish, like 3 million, 4 million on the athletic portion. I'm generalizing, it's been 8 weeks.
yeah, I mean, it's this new sports complex, blue end zone. I mean,
So it doesn't say specifically.
so it just says new sports complex current plans. Like I didn't know it was the plan. Like even that last meeting, Tim said that it would be up to him and Jen if they were gonna expand upon. Well, I mean, honestly, we said we were going to put visitor side bleachers in, and now it's like we're moving the home side bleachers to the visitor side, creating a problem. So we have to build a press box with the new bleachers. Why can't we just put new bleachers on the visitor side type thing?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things there. One, I mean, I don't think as a whole, we ever said we're doing this as a stadium or we're doing this as turf, because the turf still being I mean, they send out, I talked to the guy who received, they're getting bids to do the turf. So I mean, I was part of that when we were doing the athletics thing. I don't think we ever said to anyone, we're doing this. Like I don't think it was ever said, we're doing this with the bleachers. There was several ideas and there was, right? I mean, we talked about.
It was all ideas.
And the other thing too is in those ideas, we learned that our bleachers were made, we made, you made the bleachers.
Right, we go.
So it's a little different than
Yeah.
if we would have bought, from, bleacher A company and you just swap them out. It's kind of a unique situation there. So I don't think anyone ever said we're doing this, right? Or did you take it that we said we did it?
I just know that we purposely, when we went to referendum, we did not want to use like words like stadium or sports complex. We wanted to use that it was a multi-use area that we were getting turf for so that we could accommodate a soccer team and band and practice all year round.
Just maybe to use a different example, because we're kind of hung up on the.
Yeah, I know.
So if I understand your question correctly, is if we go through and we get proposals for everything, for the school buildings and the complex, and it comes in at 15 million versus the 30, does there need to be a decision-making process or a board oversight of, okay, we're only going to spend the 15, or can the administration make the decision to add on the other stuff that we're all wants to, because 30 million was approved?
I think that, yeah, that's a fair. I think that we
Just to make it.
I think that we
extreme
should have
example.
some oversight to say, yes, that's what we want, because I mean, why would we leave just an open checkbook to make all the decisions? This is referendum spending. We all worked really hard at getting that to go through, and people could perceive it as us kind of embellishing on stuff when I don't know. Maybe nobody else sees it my way. I mean, I like nice things. I'm not even saying I'm against this. I just think that, why wouldn't we go on the record and say, yeah, this is what we want them to do? So.
I may be wrong, but I think we will once we know what we're doing, right? I mean,
That's not the way it sounded last meeting.
I think in last meeting, we talked about how it just high level that the board was, the oversight of the initial estimates and projections for what we think in the referendum package that gets put together. And then I think it was that the administration oversees the execution of the plans.
and are you saying?
I'm saying anything above and beyond the plan. I think that the original plan, I guess. Like they come with the design stuff. Why wouldn't we have that's what we told the community we were gonna do. So go ahead and.
So what the referendum question is, if we're speaking just to the high school, reconstructing the track, installing synthetic turf, and expanding bleacher capacity at the high school athletic field, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades at all districts, or at all district school buildings. So if you want to look at the specific referendum question.
The question, and then most of the billboards would say at the end, this is only 8% of the whole project or something, which was that portion. If it goes up by $1 million, I would reckon that it's more than 8% of the total project.
I guess I would look at it, I would look at it differently. It feels like again, the numbers I could be off on, but it's approximately 33% above where we were versus 8% of the total. And that's the way I look at budget numbers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to look at them. That's what I would look at, is like that one's 33% higher. And I don't know if that means if that's good or bad.
If everything, like all the proposals were coming in higher, I would, that's the trend, stuff just costs.
Are other ones coming in higher?
Evidently not, because we're staying in within budget by,
Are any coming in lower?
I think the elementary was about right on, right? So, it's, you know, I mean, that's the only one that's really went through the major process.
So what are you recommending that we do?
I guess I would recommend that the board, it would go before the board just for approval of the scope of the project or whatever before we start constructing something, you know, so.
Are we not doing that?
The board formal approval for each project,
Not each, you're not saying each
each
project.
package. bid
Each
package.
pack, there's like what, 3 packages basically, or,
So the board is doing that.
no, it gets presented to us and I mean, there's nothing that we do with it. They come and ask if there's any questions and, you know, and then if we do have questions, it's up to administration to. So I mean, why would we even really see it?
Same reason we see all the other things. We look at staples.
I mean, I'd hate to get to the part where we're approving the treasurer's report or paying bills and we're like, no, I don't want to pay that. Because technically we could break the bills down that way each month. We could have the referendum spending be part of it. We could approve it at each meeting, I suppose. Because ultimately we do approve
So if we,
the spending of the funds,
if you're
right?
saying that the board needs to be like, is that collectively more involved in the decision making? So that would be then more than once a board meeting. So are you wanting all of us each time there's something sent in to oversee it and approve it and discuss it? Is that what you're looking for, or?
Are you saying scope?
The scope, like I made the big picture stuff, you know.
So like elementary school.
Yeah.
Right, we got the more detailed,
Yeah,
and then just say, yes, go inside of that scope with that budget, with that bid.
Yeah.
Yes, what's entailed there.
Yep.
So then there'd be 3,
yeah, 3 major.
or I don't know, maybe it'd be broken into a sub.
Yep, that's what we envisioned. That's what the community would do. I I don't want to sit here and do every change order that comes throughout the project or anything like that. Many small governments do that, and I served on the village board for quite a long time, and every change order that came through, we approved at a meeting. So, and they would literally have to wait till our next meeting to do it. I don't want to hold the project up like that, but the big picture stuff.
I guess I trust the admin and Greg and whoever else is in the daily trenches, that they are making the best decisions financially and for the kids and for a district within our referendum monies that have been given to us. Because you can't just give money back to the community, you know, you have that budget.
We don't have to spend it.
I guess I
Are you
feel like it
sure?
would be like a little overstepping. Like I feel like we would be
They
like,
said you didn't have to. And I mean, isn't that what Brian said? That you didn't have to spend
I
it?
mean, if you didn't spend it, it would just go back to
Up
the
to.
We don't
Yeah.
have to spend all 30.
I just feel like some of that sounds a little like overstepping. Like
I mean,
if that group, or who's deciding.
three big scopes of work that would come before the board and, you know.
I would have to do that at work. Anything over 5 million, I would have to do that. Like I'd have to have a detailed plan, right? You go with the big overarching to the board, and then like you got to go back yourself with the details. But it's anything over 5 million. I'm just using that as an example. Like I've got to go to the board for that stuff at work all the time. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a threshold. Maybe it isn't all of them. Maybe it's a couple. I don't know.
I guess I trust the admin and they're in the trenches, they know, and it's on Tim and he knows it's the admin and that's his job to run the referendum.
It wasn't a trust issue.
I know, but I just like, I don't need to know, like I trust Greg to feel like that's the,
This is pretty big picture. it's not like micromanaging, I don't think, it's just a matter of.
Are you, like, do
Oh.
you feel like you got blowback or questions asked or?
Not really, I mean, it's just, when you see a 33% increase in one portion of the project, you think,
That was as of the last board meeting. That was the report, that was the update, where we're at right now. And that is the point, to bring it up and see. And I mean, I've been intentionally silent because I'm trying to understand, I'm just listening, like what the board
Yeah.
wants. And I've got lots of information, but I've only shared if you want it. I'm just trying to get a picture of what you're asking, like, or if you're considering it, because I have a lot of questions at what point, what time, scope. There's design, and then there's bid package, and then there's putting it out on the street, and then there's bid day, and like at what point, there's decisions made daily by the architects and the general contractors. Like, we need an answer now. Like, we going this way or that way? I don't know. It's just, I've thought about it too. Like, yeah, I mean, oversight and approval. I don't know. We got 30 million budget. We got the scope, which is a legal document that we got to stay within. Within that, there's just so many. Maybe go right down the line from turf to which side we're putting bleachers on to the, luxury vinyl tile versus VCT versus finishes versus type of concrete. I mean, it's just daily decisions that were being made. So it's like, I just don't know. I just want clarification on. Like, I think that's what we're trying to do is those reports. Like, they came and said, here's where we're at now. And I thought, what I feel comfortable is there's so many alternate bid packages. There's alternate ads, alternate deducts. There's lots of options, and when it comes that time, like something big like that, now I know the bleacher thing is a big deal. I can come to the board and ask for your input. I just don't know what the threshold is. What things do you want me to come and ask about is it a number thing? Is it a project thing? The type of project could be controversial in this community. I would need clarification on that.
I mean, you said scope, right? So there would be 3 scopes of work, right? Like they're bid separately. I wasn't able
packages.
to make the last meeting.
Bid pack 1 was just
So-
the house demo and that associated stuff, tree removal. Bid pack 2 is
400 or
4K.
whatever that was.
Bid pack 3, they're in now, hit the streets, and then bid openings.
Elementary, then the high school stuff, and then the middle school was separate. Like,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's like a sub thing.
Yeah, there's even another sub thing of technology,
Yeah.
and security.
I mean, I don't want to start picking color the stuff that we've got committees, like that type of stuff I'm care less about, but the overall number, like, or do we get to this number,
I know we can't be $1 million over. We know that, right?
Yeah.
But that's why the contingencies and all those things. What's the other one? Funny. But there's 6%, 5%. There's some big numbers out that are just put in there as insurance. And as we get closer to bid day, and then this bid day is a huge day. February 8th or 9th. That's a big one. We were 150,000 under the first on the 2.1 million project. This is 20-something. It's going to be a big day. And that's why I feel comfortable with all these alternate bids. And we don't know what we're going to do with the bleachers yet. We're just exploring all options. I don't even know what kind of turf, we learned a lot about turf at that convention.
I don't particularly disagree with the thoughts on like a kickoff that kind of defines kind of everything once all the bids are in. I imagine that a lot of what happens in the next year or two is going to be slightly different than kind of whatever we define today.
Yeah.
So I don't know if just your earlier comment about feeling like things aren't what they initially were. When I was in that initial referendum committee, I felt that, the laundry lists under elementary school and under the high school and under whatever else were significantly longer than, the 3 items at each that we ended up coming up with. In my head, I think that when we were in that committee, we all would have wanted each of those lists. And so if at the end of the day, we come in under budget, that committee determined, and I know we still have those saved, that those other wants would have been great to add to the technical education group, and, you know, adding bleachers to the stadium, or, you know, something else to elementary school. I think the community would still find value in adding on those wants. And I think we can only speculate at what those would even be. So I know we started this conversation around the football field, or those athletic complex, sports field, whatever. But I feel like that could very easily apply to any other part of the rest of the referendum. That I don't know. I don't know how. I can't quite in my head think of how the board would, from a policy standpoint, want to participate in that, other than like a project kickoff, like you mentioned, almost.
Yeah.
You know, where we initially define the scope based on the budgets as they are today. But I still feel like that would be malleable throughout the process, and change orders and whatnot. And at what point outside of that project kickoff would an actual like policy help with, versus like these type of conversations, you know?
So I've got one live going right now that's $67 million for my team. We have the budget approved, and then we have like 3 buckets that are inside of it. So we have the office space referendum, we have all of build out, and then we have general construction, right? So those are the 3.
Yep.
And we approve the 3 scopes of those 3, right? So we have to go to the board and get approval on those 3 buckets, like, because they all cross the $5 million threshold independently, because you can do the build out, then you can do, for general construction, you could not build it out, then you do your build out, and then you do your office, right? So those are 3 separated that we go with. Office, as an example, the principles around the office are presented in approval. What we end up with, the number of conference rooms, or how many desk space and how many office space, or whatever, open office space or seating or whatever, that's all done after the fact, and that's all the details managed by the teams. The general scoping thing is at a board of like the principles behind it and the strategy behind it. Like,
Yep.
And then after that, how it's shaped inside of that is managed by the team.
Yep.
I mean, as an example, right?
And-
So that's
And like I was saying,
a construction project that that's how it's chopped up. But ours is because we have a dollar value that we have to do that with. And I would say, like, I don't know, maybe it's 10, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe there's only 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, well, timing wise, bid openings February 8th and our board meeting's 15th. So you define kind of what info you want. Mark and John said, they'll be able to present, you know, obviously the budget again, but if you want some more information on scope, certainly can do that. Have that available. Timing wise, it'd be good.
I'm just trying to keep it up here
Yeah.
as something versus like not approving the brand of the luxury vinyl tile.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
the color.
But I guess
I think conversations with the community are easier when we say board approved, this is the major scope of the thing, and not, well, yeah, Tim approved to do that, you know what I mean? So it's like,
I think most of the people in the public would realize how complicated this process is. It's not as simple as that.
And we prove that. I mean, I know we keep bringing up the athletic field, and to prove that in those meetings, everyone's like, we're building, 28 million's going to the football team. I mean, to be fair, we if we're basing this on, if it's easier for one of us to go to the community with it, I think it's, where the direction we want to go, because people are going to have not care at all about the surface of one field, and some are going to care a lot. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
don't know if
you
we
take
have
the
to
3 buckets and the people that are in those meetings that are, that decide, hey, this would be kind of neater. But you take any one of those groups and say, would you like a little more money for, yeah, they would take it, right? Like for their project.
Sure.
I'm sure that they would.
But there's no major scope that has changed. There was no road in any of those posters and pre-referendum. That was a discussion item in the community task force. We said improvements to the stadium and said some of the information adding on to the home bleachers and more visitor bleachers. So it's not like we're doing anything radically different. I don't think this committee's gonna be like, what? You know, and I totally agree of being $1 million over on that part of the project. Yeah, it's number one priority right now.
And obviously, I don't see anything about the parts where we come in under or something. Those numbers are also once they get, you know,
And so many bids get, the coverage is crazy. Just even, you know, on the 4K one we went over, that the range is astounding in 6 different bids. And then they go through the scope, and make sure they're all apples to apples, and they still come in. It just depends on the subcontractor. It's a stress. It's gonna be a really stressful day, more just probably as much as the actual vote was
So,
last April.
so to, I don't know, trying to roll it out. So like, so then to your question is a couple of approvals as scope of like kickoff or your term, whatever, as you go, like each one is a bid and like, yes, we align with that bid and then let's go. Or the other option is nothing. Not with the bid, but as like the scope, like this is what we're covering, right? Whatever's in, this is in, and this is generally the scope. Or the other is nothing, right? Like I'm just trying to read the room.
Formal.
I
yeah.
wouldn't
That's
say,
something like
I wouldn't
there's-
say nothing. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I still think at some level, Tim's still accountable to the board.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the 30 million's gone because we're not going to weigh in, right? I'm just trying to like high level summarize, right? So like the request is like a couple approvals at the beginning, what's in scope, what's not, or the other one is like not do that.
I see what you're saying. So in theory, we have 30 million. 30 million could go to build a football field.
Well-
End of story. You know, without that approval.
Not.
well, as long as you did a little something at each of the other.
I know what you're saying. I feel like
I just
No, but I'm saying like it was the ask was like this or like not do any of that, right? Like it's just gonna go and we'll just be updated. I'm just trying to like,
Yeah,
what
I
are we
see a
trying to
plan
get to?
like the 15th.
Like what are we trying to get through there? Like on this
Yeah.
bullet,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to read the room of what,
basically, do you want to
like,
formally approve something where you make a motion on it at a board meeting or not?
there's an FYI and we get it, whatever the peer, like I'm just like
Or continue with what we've been doing.
trying to get through the number. This,
Give a report and you guys are like,
13
whoa, this doesn't, you ask a lot of questions, say, you know, give me some guidance. I'm all for that. I'm all for either one, but the go with the approval route, I'm just not sure what you're approving. The scope even changes as you get going. You know, you can
I
do the
think I
bid,
need
but
to
they
find
gotta vet the bid. And say, oh, nope, it turns out they can't do that.
like I said, like the build out of a building, right, is like the HVAC, electrical, air returns, drains, water, sewer, all that stuff, right, is built out. You can put loop systems in, you can put redundancy systems in, you can put backup systems in, you can get ventilation, make up air returns on your dust. I mean, there's all those things are inside of your build out. But you go with the general scope of your build out. So I'm just like, I get what
The
you're
numbers
saying.
can be really different. That's
Oh.
where we're trying to balance.
Yeah, huge,
50 big numbers.
huge.
I mean, basically do with other referendum spending, like the other portion of the referendum, we approved that for it.
Say that again.
So like the staff pay portion of the referendum, we approved that before it happens. So you know what I'm saying? Like you guys lay out, this is what we promised our employees, like, you know.
Oh, we wish we could do that with this. We wish we could have the whole thing designed, right? But, you know, we've talked about that with schools and things like that. We'd have to pay the architects about $2 million just to get, right? That level of detail backwards. Right, it is backwards, but that's because we have to do a referendum. We didn't have to. We could do all that. That's why we're able to build the compensation pack over 3 years, that plan.
Yeah, but technically
Question two.
you come to us every year to say, are we gonna do this actually, right?
For the approval of the budget, which salary is 80% of, yes, so.
And the likelihood of us ever saying no to that would be slim, because it's within the budget. Kind of the same deal here, just it's a more formal process, so. Where it seems like the elected officials are at least somewhat involved in the planning.
I think we can hear it. I don't know if I need formal approval. That's my opinion. I would definitely want to hear it and come in and give us the information and we have a discussion. That's my opinion about everybody else.
Yeah, that would be our time to, if we had a problem with it, to, yeah, point it out.
But you really couldn't, you could point it out, but you wouldn't have any say in it at all.
But Tim's going to take our opinion. He's going to listen to his board, that if we're questioning him, he's definitely going to listen and take that into consideration. 'Cause if he doesn't, and he's.
But he could leave that with mixed emotions, right? Like, I'm saying one thing, or Josh is saying another thing, and then, well, this is kind of what I took out of that, where we were like, yes, go ahead with this.
So you're saying like for a majority,
Yeah,
If it's that controversial, I suggest, yeah, you call for a vote then. Yeah, I don't want it left up in the air. Like half of you say this and half of you tell
well,
me that.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But to set you up for success, isn't it better to like have some sort of approval, a blessing? Like, I don't know.
so Erica, you said at the beginning that there hasn't been oversight in the past on referendums.
I checked with Jeff, since he's not here, and that's what he said.
Not board, but no, and Mark and Johnson asked me the same thing. Do we need to take each one of these bid packs to the board? I said, no, they haven't done that in the past and I've made those decisions. So, and they asked, which tells me some boards do. That's what I inferred.
Okay.
But
I just
no,
wanted to like
and
clarify.
Board.
and Howard and all the previous referendums said no. That's what I did in 2014 either.
If nobody wants to do anything, just thought we could have a nice discussion. No?
It was a good
Okay.
discussion.
Did you get, what do you want? I mean, did it get answered or did you want more? on
Answered,
it?
or did I get my way? No, I was kidding. I mean, there's plenty of answers. I mean, personally, I would prefer to go with some sort of approval route.
For just those, what you're kind of calling those three areas,
I made that up. You didn't.
Right.
That was in my mind, like trying to
right?
pull together.
Well, yeah, or whatever. I mean,
But I don't want like.
I mean, you don't want the board, all of us have to be here and vote on.
Yeah, I don't know,
the
like
pan
each,
tone of the turf.
like,
in the
yeah.
red zone.
yeah, or man, we're gonna, whatever.
Keep it simple. You say each bid package. Yeah. Two are gone. The third and bit largest is coming
This is the
up.
largest, yeah.
And the HVAC is fixed one. We could approve that, but that's pretty straightforward. And the technology and security is another sub of that. That's included in.
Just to have a discussion and actually vote on it. Is what if it doesn't,
Well, I mean, I think a discussion could leave,
because I'm just afraid if we say vote on it, what if we don't approve it or something, then what?
would come up with what we would approve. I mean, this isn't I don't know if it would be a
It holds up.
yes or no, but like,
I mean, just to
Which is
hold
the
it up.
timeline.
Yeah, I don't want to hold it up and I don't want to, if we are voting on the turf color and we don't, they come to us and say green and four of us want blue, then what?
Then it's blue, I think would be the, I mean, I don't know, right? If that's what you're
Well,
voting
can
on,
change
if
lead
that's what's
time,
taking.
lead times and all
Yeah,
that
I
stuff. It's
I get it.
depends
I'm just
on
saying
what it
like
is.
that. I mean, yes, that would be an outcome. That would be a potential impact to lead time or whatever, right? I
yeah, it wouldn't be green or blue, it'd be yes or no. I mean, that, right? I mean,
Sure.
with the 7-person board, it would be green or blue.
Right. I'm just asking, I don't
But
know.
yeah, I mean, like,
And if we go, like, if Jeff had said, and Howard, like, they've never done this in the past, so, and they've gotten through big referendums before, I'm just wondering why they didn't feel the need, and, or, I don't know. It's worked in the past for them. Do you think it's worked in the past for them? In the other referendums? As a community member?
Community member. But you always get disappointed because these other ones were tough. They had to start cutting stuff out of the last project, right? Like, had to change the whole design of the auditorium to precast or.
No, auditorium's the one thing.
Or no,
It didn't change.
yeah, the
Smaller weight room.
Yeah.
Smaller gym, things like that.
Lance, final words?
but I don't even know if we can do anything, just as discussion. It doesn't say.
Yeah, it's just a discussion that there's
Yeah.
nothing to vote on.
I mean, the other thing I'm thinking is, as these come up, you know, if your intention too is to, okay, this one came up $1 million over, or, you know, we're upside down. If those discussions are already planned and going to be happen, like, I don't know. If I get your point of there not being a vote, you know, could a decision be made that's not supported by the board? Yes. But I feel like the information we're going to get is also, I mean, I'm kind of, if it's kept to an extremely, you know, high level of scope, you know, where the expectation is that things are going to change up and down. I think I kind of came into this on the agenda thinking that it was more about, you know, if we come in at 29.5 million, but an extra 400,000 could be spent to get these extras that the committee wanted that weren't in the scope. Do we want to do that? Would that be the board's to step in and say? So I don't know, kind of processing still.
Yeah, we get it.
And if it's a yes or no, I mean, yeah, it's in all best interest for me to bring a plan that you have to say yes to. Because if you say no to the whole thing, that really puts the whole project back. So yeah, if something big comes up that I think, this could be controversial, I definitely will loop you in, get your input, ask for next steps.
Good, Dave, anything else?
I can see where he's coming from, but I just think that's where good discussion comes in and feedback for Tim to make the right decision. And he's not gonna go ahead with something that, as a board, we don't agree with. I would hope not anyway.
Board, community, the staff, students. Yeah. Greg's in every one of those weekly meetings too. There's lots of decisions. And we've got, with HVAC, for example, we got Terry Freeze, one of our consultants, one of the best hires we made years ago. HVAC is complicated. He's awesome. He's really helped our district, but I'm not an HVAC guy. You know, he knows what he's doing. None of us are that much of an expert. He's like, that's just one example. Like, he's asking questions I didn't even know were questions. Holding them accountable. He's like the owner's rep with HVAC. I've got some folks that are in the business that I consult with too. You know, they're kind of my informal owner's rep, consultants. You know, I know it's complicated. It's not what I do, but at least I think, you know, I can ask the right questions, consult people, and we'll get there. So anyway, what
We need to be
else is left?
I'm fine.
Everybody ready to move on, or?
It's nothing this time.
Discussion regarding board annual review of employee exit surveys.
Yeah, you want to maybe say why you put it on there? Wanted it on there? Like high level. We don't make all our decisions based on social media, but we also
Right.
do listen.
So there was questions, in some social media about, the trends of employees leaving. And so we just thought that we would gather data this way. So if there are trends, we can see them and deal with them at that point. And
I had not done them regularly. It's just a survey. It's not an actual sit down interview. And I look back at my records. I did in 2017, 19, 21. It's funny, when it came up, I went to Michaela and I said, you know, we should make this part of our offboarding. She's like, I already started it. She's got a whole offboarding process now. And she had a survey she started, I had that survey. We melded them, what I thought was information that, you know, we would want to know and the board would want to know. We get some demographic information, but keep it semi-anonymous, right? But, you know, by position and such, you know, but reasons for leaving. And then I just thought, maybe, you know, the board annually, would you like us to give an annual review in the summer? Generally the you know, hiring season, some trends, like, you know, things that the board could address perhaps, you know, or some policies, but especially salary and benefits, for example, that would be one thing. Have people leaving because they're making much more money there. It's probably a bad example because we just addressed this last referendum, but maybe other high level things like, yeah, we'd want to know.
And it would be helpful. I mean, just generally speaking to the public, I mean, when they have questions, just so we have something to give them. But, you know, it's hard to answer some of these questions without sounding like a prick. I mean, you know, you don't have anything to give them because you don't know anything. And even if we had some vague answers to give them, it'd be at least something.
I do think that'd be good to track.
I don't get a lot of faith in those types of surveys because they're like anonymous, except you are one of one that just did the exit survey because you just left, right? I mean, like that's the hard part with those. Like, so I don't know what type of information you really garner other than like super high level. And then plus I don't know if like I would want it because I don't want to even answer those questions. That I tell them to go to the admin with those questions. Like, so I don't know if I really want them personally.
Do any of your companies do them?
Yeah, it's a personal interview.
It is a personal, so that's what I was gonna ask. It was
With
anonymous.
HR.
So anonymous isn't best, and a personal one would be better.
We if you get like HR, like you have like HR that's like the rep for them, which they're paid by the company, so they're not really, but people are like pretty open and pretty honest in those conversations. Where the surveys, it's kind of like they're out, like they don't.
Okay.
And they don't really want to. I mean, you don't really get anything that bad. Like we don't, like because they're professionals. Like they don't want that to come back because it's still a small world, right? Inside of manufacturing, right? So you don't really want to. Like it's like us, 3M, like General Mills. I mean, there aren't a ton, so it's a small community. So people generally don't tell you a lot because they don't want you. They know you probably know somebody in another company, and you might be a reference and. I don't know.
What about like, yes, sit down with Michaela and she asks those questions though. You know what I mean? That would be the interview, right? And she tracks it.
And then it's like, you know, a lot of times it's totally different here though, because you have a supervisor that has 7 to 10 people, right? To talk about the interactions like that. That's where you get most of your feedback is about that. Where yours is 150 to 1. Or 100? I mean, how many?
Yeah, generally 50. I think Leah might have the most reports at 50 some.
What do you mean? How many are at the middle school? As an example.
Yeah, but like for instance, like teachers, right? Yeah, Chance.
Right.
Paris, Leah. Special ed teachers.
Okay.
Leah.
Okay. So like 50, but I mean, it's still like I don't know how much you'll get with that. I don't know. And again, like, are they going to say anything? Have you ever seen anything in the past where they really say anything on those things?
Nothing. No, from what I've seen, no, it's not like anything we change.
Because they're going to go teach someplace else, right? Like
it's all over the board. From being closer to family, to I got married, to my spouse, to no, I'm not happy here. You know.
I mean, you're going to every once in a while you're going to get something that's something, but I don't know if you're really going to get the answer.
I think
And then plus, I don't want it as a board member.
well, kind of like what you're saying, and then also to answer yours, like if someone asks, what would we know? I don't know if I want to know all of it, because then if someone does ask,
Well, I wouldn't want to know on an individual level, just as a, you know,
I mean, then we'd have to be really careful though, right, of what you tell someone
I mean,
outside of here.
You're gonna rattle 67% of our employees left because they wanted to live closer to family or something. And
And I think part of what got put on this too is there were a few comments that were, I think this is more of like a step for the community to have access to rather than anything the board would functionally use it for.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Because it was a little bit of a, I can't believe none of this is tracked kind of thing. Was some of the comments, which I think is what probably stirred this up, and just at least the initial question of, do we track it?
I mean,
So
I guess-
if the step is yes, we do, or we're implementing, so that the administration can do a better job of maybe retaining people, great. But I agree with you in that I don't know if it ever would.
So you want to do like our work, we do all of those things, all of them. Nothing goes to the board.
I mean,
None of that would ever go to the board.
Okay.
The executive committee gets the overall roll up of the division, so 5,000 people, right, get rolled up to the executive committee, but the board never sees anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's the right example, but I mean, it is like, it's tracked. Like the company tracks it because they have to,
But we don't want to report.
but like we don't tell the board.
I think the report maybe wouldn't be the worst thing, because when we have discussions like with Tim during his annual review, you know, like my work, those exit surveys drive the moves they make towards culture at our company. And like, we've made like major changes where I work as far as culture goes, as far like, we must suck at this or whatever, because so now we make a conscious effort to be better at making sure that each employee has one-on-ones or that type of, you know, they make decisions like that. So I could see like a once a year, like, do we have a culture problem, you know, based upon that report or something?
I mean, I still would like to track it. It's just question is then.
Do you want to share
it
with
at
us?
what level?
Yeah.
I mean, I shared it with Erica, if you want to just read some. There's quite a bit of
Reason
information.
for leaving: retirement, personal, family, better job opportunity, relocation, work schedule, hours, commute, workload, salary, benefits, working conditions, military, furthering education, health, culture. What did you see as the strengths of SCC? Did you feel valued? Would you return to work at SCC in the future? What constructive comments do you have for making SCC a better place to work? Could we have done anything to prevent you from leaving? That's yes, no, maybe. Would you recommend employment with St. Croix Central School Districts to others? Yes or no? Before that, there's a rating scale of 1 to 5, and it just says, please rank staff morale, benefit package, compensation, colleagues, building admin, district administration, school board, necessary resources to perform your job, opportunities for development, clear job expectations, performance evaluation system. And that's the end of it.
Just, if you're gonna give me effort and money, I would reinvest in current employees and the ones leaving. I would double down on like voice of the employee that we're doing. Like, we're doubling down on those employees that are there to improve the culture to keep them versus the ones that are already gone. I mean, there is something there, but the ones leaving is a small snippet, right? And then like, statistically, is it going to be significant if you end up with a bunch of people leaving for pay or relocation or whatever those reasons are? Are you going to get enough there versus sampling, doubling down on the entire employee base and getting more information and investing your time there, the people that are still here?
Which we do, Q12 and.
Yeah,
all
but I
those
mean, like,
things, yep.
would we do one more of those instead of putting time and effort into another? I mean, because I'm guessing the percentages are like, how many people left?
Yeah, what was it? 28 or something? I don't know, it was 170.
You're doing
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
It might have
Yeah,
been
so
even lower than
10%.
that.
So like 10%, right? So are you better off doubling down on the 90, like twice a year instead? I don't know. Like, it feels like a better return. And to me,
I guess that
again, that's not my job.
report, again, would definitely have benefit for Tim to decide how he keeps the 90 happy, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's
I mean, if
important
you
to
seem
run
to
your
trend like
business.
so once, like, they didn't feel valued and they all give them one building, and I guess you look at that building as to why somebody might not feel valued there or something, right?
To your point,
Right.
9 straight years and done this 3 sporadically. It's, I guess, the reflection is probably why, it wasn't, can't do much about them. They're gone, but like, oh, it'd be nice to get their feedback. And then
It's like
Next year I think
29,
about-
right? So then if you end up with 29 and then you end up with 6, statistically, that's gonna tell you that's not any,
Or
like,
12 this past
Oh,
year.
anything,
sorry.
like a group of 6 is nothing.
So
So
it's
like,
12 this
it
year.
was
You're
12.
catch it on the
12, it ranged
process.
from 8 to 12 the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years. 8 to 12 people.
Not
Sorry.
28.
Or 13, 14, no, forget it. Wrong number, 18, from 8 to 18.
about, and not that you don't wanna keep people, but it's like, again, like when I look at my team, I'm worried about the team I have, not the team I had. Like, I don't know, that's always my philosophy on it, but again, not my job.
So in the, kind of listening to what, social media, whatever people's concerns. If it was like a yearly thing, would those people then think they would be, what would you be able to say that would make those comments,
Well, if you're losing, I mean, to Vince's point, and I mean, if you're losing 20% out of the same building 3 years in a row, there's something wrong in that building, right? I
Right.
mean, like, and that's, again, like, it's the Tim problem, not an
Right.
us problem, then, like, I don't know.
But
So
yeah,
what would
the
it
answer
be?
would be, yes, we track it.
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the board
Yep.
discussed it. and-
are they looking, is that,
I was just trying, the question was, I'm trying to gauge if our board is trying to keep a pulse on departures.
I mean, to me, it would be like, it'd be nice to trend it, right? If you want to put limits on it, like how many people per building.
They have that here.
So then, I mean, like, other than that, what would the board have for concern? Because then if Tim's not doing something and you're losing 20% in a building 3 years in a row, then it's
Right.
like, Tim, what are you doing?
right?
Yeah, that seems like that'd be.
1 year the elementary at 10,
Or we did
another
it,
year
huh?
the high school at 9, and if it kind of jumps around, it's
So
there's
then
no
it-
trend.
Control
Middle
of
school
it.
at 6.
Yep.
So you don't have good years or bad years, you have years.
So it'd be, yeah, each building and then.
I mean, again, it's
Support
statistic,
staff.
you could dive into it, age demographic, how many retirement. Okay, I think I
teachers for that.
think I'm hearing is, yep, track it. The only question is, do you want an
That's
annual
my
report or not?
Probably only if there's a huge problem in a certain building.
Yeah, I think it would be good discussion annually, right here, like,
You do it, yeah,
and then we just say, hey, and you report back to us,
yeah.
what you're seeing as trends and what your plan is to mitigate it, or if it's just normal, it's-
Yeah, I can give you the historical data by building and all that. Okay.
If something
Standard
major
deviation.
happened, 33 people left this place, or you know what I mean? Like, it's major, right?
Yeah, it's-
Yeah,
Like all the retirements after Act 10 was one example.
Yeah.
right?
So when do we want to do that? When's a good time in your mind?
I think we got an annual review. That's part of
that would be,
That's
yeah,
always
because then it would be you would have it a monthly or quarterly for yourself, but it'd be a yearly report that you kind of
Mhm.
report to
Yeah.
the board.
The other thing, like, that we've been doing that I get to review, like my team members don't, like my direct reports don't get to review, but I see as my whole area is I see like number of retirements upcoming. Because then I ignore that number out of so then I'm aware of it, and then we're actually doing planning around that. So I don't have names. I don't get to see the names. I just know that I have 7 people that are most likely going to retire within the next 2 years. So when I go to my staffing plan, like if you see attrition of 7, it's like you don't pay attention to it because it's not significant.
Mhm.
And just also know we need to double down on recruiting and the skill sets or whatever.
I don't follow that social media, I guess.
I don't, yeah. It's new to me.
So we'll move on to consideration and final approval of the 23-24 school calendar, the 4K calendar from the school calendar.
All at once. We have to have three separate votes.
You make a motion to approve them as a slate.
You good for these? Yeah,
Now we can-
I can do that. Make that motion to approve them all.
I'll second.
I have the motion, Josh made a motion. Dave second.
Do you want to go over a little bit?
Is there a discussion?
To motion to approve all three.
All three, yep, for the regular school calendar, the 4K and the summer school calendar.
Only question is like on spring break, because I know we talked about that this year. Do we like it where it's gonna land versus where it has historically?
Until you ask.
But I mean, do we want to wait until
All.
to get that feedback? Because it was like kids are going crazy and it's gonna be way better, right?
Because of the time change, right?
Right, so that
Yeah.
I'm just like, if that was the reason we're doing it, are we getting the result we want out of it?
So the caveat of that is like, there's some folks that are actually one family that has to be every year, like, the calendar and spring break for next year, because they're in the healthcare field, they have to request their time off a year. So we try to publish it right away.
For those kind of situations.
We've made amendments once in a while. I just worry a little bit about spring break, because then some people are already actually planning next year's spring break now.
Yeah, I'm just asking because that was a big driver
Yeah,
for
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
And like it was this like hypothesis and is it gonna prove out or not? And then if not, we're just continuing it. And I don't, because I know there was like some consternation around it a little
I
bit.
think I shared it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
personally preferred it later,
Yeah,
Me
but
too.
me too. That's why I'm asking, because I remember the conversation too. So that's why I'm asking.
As a, for the kids' decision, Brian's point is valid or whatever, and then for a couple families scheduling, I don't know, if that's how we base our decisions. We do like that.
But also
yeah, for the kids' decision was daylight savings time.
for the
Yeah.
And that was
majority.
why we.
It doesn't work is what, to Brian's point,
I
right?
see.
You know, so like,
That's what's kind of,
Yeah, your point is to be determined. Let's say we get there and we do that and we get a lot of feedback and
or it's worse.
say, I'm here, yeah, right. And we certainly reserve the right to change it. Like I said, it might affect one family, but
yeah,
any decision we make affects
I
at
mean-
least
I mean-
one family.
yeah. And then that one family that makes a decision based upon this, and then we switch it, we put that same family in just as much of a bind, I would think, so.
I was just-
Our why is, no, this was awful.
Yeah,
And for kids. we'll
I mean, that's
stand
what our
behind it.
decisions are supposed to be based upon.
Exactly. No, I think 3 or 4 drafts, I mean, it's a lot of back and forth. Christmas falls differently and we're trying to take into account professional development and, once a month that's typically, and where Easter falls is different every year. And how the Thanksgiving break go this year, it was very popular. So, we knew that, right? But we don't know, to Brian's point, what spring break's gonna be like.
But they
Live it.
do know that week is typically a tough week for kids after daylight savings
Right.
time. It is a tough
Sleep
week.
schedule. And that was the reason, that was the why.
This would be the first year.
Prior to that, it was like,
This
we're
year.
trying to really get it in between the athletic sports seasons, March.
Yeah, so is it gonna be worse because of the timing for everything else?
Right.
So was it give where like I don't know. I'm just
No spring break.
I understand.
We don't get it this year anyways, because we're gonna have
But then there's
6
how
more snow
many
days. so.
athletes, right? So you gotta take that.
Say that.
My kid's in both sports, right? Like last year, we came home from spring break early so I could run a track meet. Other one didn't want to go because he was supposed to be in spring training for baseball, and it's a tough situation. So, and then like, are we gonna go to state? And then are we gonna cancel our spring break? Or, I mean, as a parent of an athlete, you have those things going through your mind where there's so many people that aren't athletes in this community too.
Right. No, nice.
So, I don't,
I'm just
it
asking.
would be easier if it could be in April, right? Like, cause then you, as a parent, you could not worry about, am I gonna have to cancel my spring break? But the thing is, you wanna wait till after the data. No, not you. I'm just
Good.
questioning.
You can do it and then change it. I'm just asking because we had the conversation about why we did it.
Yeah.
And then we're like, we don't have any information on whether it was good or if we made it worse in some other areas because it was like, it wasn't split up.
Like if
well
the following
or
week was bad.
Yeah.
We always reserve the right to change it.
Yeah.
But we just try to prove it in January every year, like.
So we can
expecting.
change it.
Oh, yeah. And we have
We change
before,
dates.
usually just
Yeah,
PD days,
before.
not something that major. But
Yeah, I'm totally fine. I'm just asking.
No, I mean, that's a valid point.
Mhm.
Cause maybe then the next week it's bad. I mean, you just, you don't know. I think that's valid. So is everybody comfortable with approving it and then having a report from just kind of having a feel of how it went this year? Revisiting it?
So you got a motion in a second.
Yep. And so all in favor?
I'm
Opposed? All right, the calendars for 2023-24 school year have been approved. F, determining number of spaces available for special ed students for open enrollment purposes. Leah?
Well, Lee's available for questions, if we have them, but, this is something, required by the DPI to do every January board meeting. We either choose to not limit seats in regular ed and special ed, they're two separate motions, or we do. If you do one, limit in one, you have to limit the other. We have chosen, since, second, third year maybe of our virtual school, maybe it was even more later than that, third or fourth year. We've chosen, in the recent past not to limit seats. And that certainly is in our favor for our open enrollment numbers and especially as it pertains to special education. And we feel comfortable doing that. We went in with a little hesitation the first year, but we feel comfortable because we are able to deny students based on not being able to provide their services in their IEP. So we still have that right. We don't just have to accept everybody because that could be a problem, right, with our staffing. And just it's hard enough to hire staff and then you get influxes 10 or 15 students and then you try to hire staff. So it's worked for us quite well. It's certainly added a lot of additional work for Leah and her staff in vetting every IEP as it comes in, especially, the open enrollment ones, right? The ones that are in seats, we don't have a choice. We have to accept them and we make it work and make decisions for your parents, et cetera. But the open enrollment was newer to us 2 or 3 years ago now. We've been doing it. It works. Like I said, it is stretched some of the staff, a little bit, but we're working through it and we're comfortable in recommending that we don't limit seats in neither special ed or regular ed for this following year. Anything to add to that or clarify, Leah?
No, I don't. I think it's just important that if I were to limit the special ed seats, we would have to limit the regular ed seats, and we don't want to do that. We have a virtual school that's thriving, and we want to make sure we support that as well. And so vetting them one by one, I think, is the best option.
Thank you. Any questions?
This attachment, this is the location of all of our open enrolled students.
Correct. Yeah, that's where districts they're coming from. And then, breaks down by special ed, virtual, and then in our buildings. Yeah,
Right down in Milwaukee.
two separate. You need
two separate motions.
I make a motion to not limit. Would be the correct way to state that, or to not limit as Tim proposed.
Yep.
For the special education students for open enrollment purposes for 23-24.
Not.
And that.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Right, so Brian first, Josh second.
It
Any
sounded
discussion?
when we vet them anyways, isn't that basically limiting it anyway, in a way?
It's,
Only if we can't provide the services though versus.
Not versus just a total
limit.
number?
Yeah.
yeah, it's not arbitrary and capricious.
Okay.
Yeah, it's look at each IEP.
All right.
I just know that because we asked that question 2 years ago.
Okay.
I think
Oh, did you? Or did we? I
I-
guess that was-
somebody, I did, and somebody else did.
Yeah, I think like, I can just comment to that a little bit. We have to make sure we have the services available to them. And some kids come to us virtually or depend, they typically, really, they're open enrolling to the district, but most of them want the virtual school. We have the services available in-house. We can't always meet them through the virtual program. But we have to look at every IEP. Even if we would limit our seats, we'd still be looking at every IEP to make sure that we can meet those services for that kid. We contract some of our services out, OT, PT, those kinds of things, and we have the right to deny on those kinds of things as well.
Any other discussion, questions? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
G, then we got G
Yeah,
separate.
okay. So determining number of spaces available for regular ed students for open enrollment purposes for 2023.
Same.
Make a motion to not limit the seats,
To
Ben,
not,
to not limit the seats.
so Vince made the motion,
second.
Lance second. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to our policies. And
I think, can do that again, we can do that again, right, like we did earlier? I make a motion to approve
yep, for the
Item-
slate.
yep,
Approval of
items
slate.
H through O.
I'm gonna read them all out loud.
Each policy.
Yeah, it's you.
I have just a question on how they're presented to us. So when it says, the current policy, and then there's a policy adopted note at the bottom of each document that's blank, because that's just to signify that there's no change in how it was rewritten.
No, that's waiting for today. So then after today, Kelly will go in and put January 25th, 2023. And then if it's ever revised, there'll be another revised, whatever the date. Or so, yeah. And again, these are all vetted through our WASB legal counsel.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So then we skip to P, consideration of first reading. That goes through B, the different policies. I just reading them, or there's questions. No action today. Questions, concerns? Okay. So the last thing under core agenda is consideration of approval of eliminating the board policies.
So again, Kelly goes and cross-references any of the new ones that you adopt, then make some old ones moot, right? So then we past practice is to formally eliminate them, and so there's no redundancy. So this would pretty much be the order of operations the next, whatever, foreseeable future board meetings of group of second readings, a group of first readings, and then approval of eliminating.
So do we have a motion for approval of eliminating board policies for the part-time open enrollment and St. Croix Central grading policy?
So moved.
Second.
So we're totally getting rid of the letter grades completely. It's just gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4 for everything now. Know what that means?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but there still will be GPAs.
Alright.
Based on the 1, 2, 3, 4.
For when people ask questions.
Yeah, and next month, I was gonna say is perfect timing, Dave. Pete's gonna be here to, give a proposal on a cum laude system, or laude system. And regarding class rank, more specifically as it relates to standards-based aligning. So he's gonna come and give a presentation, and we'll have a discussion on that, and if so, there'll be a policy at some point this spring. We'll be asking you to consider the laude system versus class rank, and it's a long presentation, not long, but in depth, so.
Is this getting more popular throughout the state?
It is, and he'll share that as well too, but it kind of aligns with standards-based grading. We'll still have to have internal class ranks for some scholarships and college applications and stuff like that, but this is more of a competing against yourself system, much like standards-based grading, rather than competing against others.
All right.
That'll be next month.
Any other questions, discussion? So Vince, you made the first, Brian, you were second. Right, hearing none, all in favor? You good? Okay. You just changed your body, so I didn't know if you were gonna have discussions. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, anything under other? Moving on to important upcoming dates. So,
Sorry, that's on the other, like, I met with Brian Johnson just as a follow-up, and I thought it was an awesome meeting. Really good. I don't know what the outcome of it was exactly around some of that timing and the gym use and whatever, but he came with some great stuff, and I thought it was really good, really productive discussion, and like we looked into a bunch of details, so it was a really good meeting.
Good.
So as I know, it was discussed at the board, so just wanted to give that
thank you, I
feedback.
appreciate that.
Sorry.
No, that's good, thank you. Good. All right, so we're looking at the school board development meeting. And we couldn't meld our schedules to all be in the same place at once. We have February 5th, and I believe that was a Sunday. And Brian, you couldn't be at that one. Josh couldn't be at the 22nd. So I think and Lee can do it the 5th. I think we need to have a discussion on where we go from here. How we find that board development date or what we decide.
Doesn't it say February 8th here?
No, it's to be determined.
That's what it said.
It was, yeah, originally.
Oh, okay. So
No, under our-
like on our agenda, it says upcoming is February.
That's what it said online. I looked at it today. It's still
Also,
said
the
8th.
updated one. I think the main thing is because Lance being new couldn't make it, so I think Eric was trying to get a different date where obviously like everybody there.
I just had practice get moved over to the 8th from a different day, so like 8th worked for me now, so.
It's like the 1 week that I'm just locked in.
Or you keep pushing it out. I don't know, just keep throwing out more dates.
I mean, you can do the 5th. Just not available on the 5th.
What does everybody think about that? What do you think? Anybody discussion?
I'm open.
Are you okay with that if we do it the 5th? If Lee can make that, or do we not, or do we want to?
I mean, a lot of the stuff we do, like I do a bunch of it. I mean, so it doesn't, a lot of those things are new exercises,
Sure.
so it'll be okay.
I don't know, I mean, the other option is pushing it way out. And then do
But then we're almost to the next one, right?
Right.
I think that's listed. So,
Then go with the 5th. Is my suggestion. I'm not saying go with my suggestion.
I highly doubt I have anything.
what did you say, Rick?
I highly doubt I have anything going on Sunday.
At the time we did the poll, that was, everybody could make it. Lee couldn't figure out how to do it online. He said that he submitted it.
I'm not gonna come if he's doing it online.
So,
That's no fun.
No,
Didn't you wanna
No,
do
he
something?
he could do the survey.
Oh, I thought he was gonna like be facilitating the thing.
Oh, no,
online
I
or
bet Zoom,
something.
I ain't going
Just Zoom bomb.
either.
I wouldn't come for the food.
well, good. I'm glad that we can bring you in that
Feed
way.
you.
Okay, so discussion on that anymore, February 5th,
From,
6 to 10?
Okay.
Potluck.
I'm not gonna be there, but do you wanna go until 10 on a Sunday night?
And some,
I'm just
6 to 9.
asking
that's
friends.
That's a good
asking for a friend.
suggestion.
You're not there, so.
I said friends.
Suggested from 10
I
to,
think we would appreciate that as
start
well.
at 10.
3 hours.
All right.
My opinion.
So 6 to 9.
Fine, that's.
Right?
Everybody else.
I think,
The following,
are you guys good with 3 hours?
5 weeks.
They tend to get kind of long.
yeah, we don't.
Or, I mean, I know we said 6 to 9, because that's what we're used to, or 6 to 10, but like, do we want to do 5:30, or do we just want to keep it at 6?
Just why don't we just start at 6 and?
Yeah.
We don't really have to have an end time necessarily. You know?
Okay.
I mean, we can have our own. If we want to be able to, but if we post it, then it goes till 10, then, or 9, then it runs over technically. Right, so,
6.
Okay,
I mean, we don't put it in our board meeting.
6 to 9.
Yep.
February 5th, which is a Sunday evening. All right, other important upcoming dates, February 15th for the board meeting, March 22nd, and April 19th for the board meetings. Next order of business is convening to close session. Roll call vote.
Aye.
All right,
All right.
All right, going in at 45. And it's considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Staff performance update.